Hey, this is Power Card, aka Project Pat, and you're listening to the Baltimore Beatdown Podcast, the best Ravens podcast on the planet.
That's pretty incredible. In fact, it's LaMarvelous.
Thank you, guys.
All right, welcome on back to another edition of the Baltimore Beatdown podcast. It is Friday, September 4th. My name is Jake Luke, and I'm joined by one of the few very special guests that are going to be on this episode. The first one is a very familiar face around these parts. It's Kyle Barber, editor-in-chief of BaltimoreBeatdown.com. Kyle, I'm assuming you're doing very well right now.
Man, Cloud 9. This is a big moment for the website, for me personally, soon for you, for anybody that's that just wrapped what we did.
So cutting right into that whole thing. We got the unique opportunity to sit down for around 15-20 minutes with Ed Reed, Ravens legend, greatest safety of all time. That's not up for debate. So anyone who wants to argue that can take your BS elsewhere, because we're not hearing it. We got the unique opportunity to do so via Snickers, who's doing a little bit of a press junket starring Ed. So you're going to see a lot of interviews with him popping up around the interwebs, but we were lucky enough to be a part of that. Alex, who's I believe on Ed's team, reached out to Kyle, asked if he wanted to conduct a quick interview. Kyle was nice enough to have me jump in there as well, as serving as a little bit of a producer, and to cut this together and put it out as sort of a bonus pod special type episode. So Kyle, really appreciate you letting me be a part of it, man. Really appreciate you supporting the show in this way, and I think you did a great job with this. The listeners are really going to enjoy it.
Thanks, man. This was big for the site, for the pod, for us. I was just, for the last 2 days since we've been trying to figure out what to ask him, we were working on this as a team and figuring out questions that I think all of us kind of put in our heads of, I think anybody that's a Ravens fan wants to spend 15 minutes with Ed Reed. And I tried to really sit down and think of, what if I have 15 minutes with Ed Reed, what would I ask him, and what would we ask him? And I think that interview went really well. To touch on a little bit, to give it a quick preface for everybody, Ed got really serious pretty quick. He started talking about the global situation, the American climate, with voting, with police brutality, with COVID-19. He really didn't have to get there either. I didn't want to spend the entire 15-20 minutes talking about all the problems in America. I wanted to talk to him a little bit about football, of course, a little bit about his life and what he's doing now. Everybody, to those that don't know, he's working with the Miami Hurricanes as the chief of staff for them, which is pretty cool. But yeah, that interview was that's one of the ones that I get to celebrate with a fist pump, a Tiger Woods fist pump, sprinting around the house, celebrating, because that one went well too. I've had some ones where at the end of the interview, I'm staring down at my laptop and I said, why did I just waste this 20 minutes of this person's time? Or I don't think I got a single story out of this, or they didn't really want to open up. Ed Reed was quick to open up. He was quick to speak with us and laugh with us. And man, we were a cigar away from feeling like we were hanging out. That's how I felt about it. What about you?
Yeah, man, it was great in every respect. I think you touched on some of the political stuff there. He really did go right into it right away. And we were talking about this a little bit offline. That's not something that you really expect or really see happen very often in these press junket type things where guys go around and do all these interviews. But that's kind of who he is, man. And I don't know if that's what I was fully expecting. I don't know if, he was going to be on his 5th interview of the day and kind of checked out, but it definitely was not that. He got in there. He was pretty psyched to talk to us, it felt like. And he jumped into some of that political stuff, but he also jumped into a lot of really fun stuff, a lot of, football heavy type of stuff that the listeners are really going to enjoy. And yeah, man, it was just a tremendous interview, I think, up and down. For the fact that we only had him for 15-20 minutes, we were able to really run the gamut with him. And I think that kind of sums up who Ed Reed is, what makes him so special, not only as a athlete, but as a person. And even just in my limited capacity there, I only got to say a few things to him as a producer, but I was grinning ear to ear the whole time, man. And I think you did a good job steering the ship and sitting in the seat that I typically sit in as the interviewer. I think as somebody who takes pride in my interviewing skills, I got to hand you some props on this one. You really, really were able to go punch for punch with him and keep him in the fold there with you. He did a great job, as did you.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. And I wanted to tie this in as you and I were speaking a little bit before the show of how Reed got political. Reed spoke a little bit on issues that are going on. And the NFL did announce earlier today, this is September 3rd, Thursday, the NFL and NFL Players Association just announced a bunch of social justice initiatives for the 2020 season. And this one stood out above the others. Quote, all NFL, NFLPA, and club facilities will be closed on Tuesday, November 3rd, which is election day. So these people can go out and vote. They don't have a reason not to, these players. And alongside that, what's really exciting is the Ravens are pushing for people to be heard. They said in a recent tweet, 60% isn't good enough. And that's in relation to only 60% of eligible voters actually went out and voted in the, I assume, 2016 or 2018 election. And they're asking people to go out and vote. I assume the Ravens are going to be doing even more about this. They've recently signed a document urging Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to put the George Floyd Policing Act of 2020 on the table. They're really pushing for things to change and the franchise is stepping up, and that's another reason that makes them one of the best franchises in the NFL, if not in the professional sports atmosphere.
Yeah, Spencer and I touched on it on yesterday's show or Wednesday's show, depending on when you're listening to this. Yeah, man, it just an organization that I know a lot of NBA teams are doing that right now with some of their actions that they've taken as far as sitting out playoff games and stuff like that, which, like I said, pretty darn ballsy to do. And the Ravens are kind of the first NFL team I've seen that is really taking some really concrete actions here to promote some of the change they're talking about and really putting the pressure on people who, and like I said on the other show, I think it's a little bit of a disingenuous thing to sit around and say like, oh, well, what are you actually doing? Raising awareness is never a bad thing, but now you can't say that because they actually are doing something. And here's just another example of them doing something, trying to actively promote change for a world that could really use it. So kudos to them. And great
Absolutely. The Lions did put out a statement before the Ravens did. They did it on day one, just giving some credit where it's due.
Sure.
I can't remember how big it was, unfortunately. I know Irsay, the owner of the Colts, Jim Irsay, he came out and pushed for Black Lives Matter, spoke on it. He has a big old, I think it's on his Twitter account how much he cared about it. So some other teams have definitely stepped up, said stuff, putting action to the words that they're saying. But yeah, the Ravens have definitely been on the forefront of this. And getting back to it, man, this fucking interview was insane. That was awesome.
Yeah, I can tell you were just absolutely floating through the entire thing. So
it was. Man, that's the dream come true. Spend 15 minutes with Ed Reed. Ask him about football. Try and make him emotional. Try and get him to
there is a
for
point.
a second. Reflect.
I was texting you. Yeah, I was texting you a little bit while it was going on. There was a point where it looks like he's legitimately going to tear up, and I think I'm going to try and cut this together and get it on YouTube so you guys can see his beautiful, flowing, great.
Holy shit. Man, he paused and he was like, I'm gonna say something in a few seconds. I was like, let's do this.
Yeah, it was just gosh, a lot of fun to be a part of this, man. I appreciate it, and I think the listeners are really going to appreciate your great work that you did on it. And I guess without further ado, you want to throw it over to the interview?
Yeah. So everybody, this is the interview with Ed Reed, and thanks in part by Snickers and the Snickers Hungriest Player Award.
Absolutely.
What's going on, Ed? How you doing?
Yeah. All is well, man. No complaints, man. Supposed to be working, but I'm working.
Works out pretty well then.
It does.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much for your time. I do appreciate it, Ed.
No problem, man. Glad to be here.
Cool. All right, let's get this started. Back in January, you were hired on as the football chief of staff for the Miami Hurricanes. What's it been like observing the past few practices and being a part of the operation and administration side of things?
Yeah, man, it's been interesting, being on this side of football. I've been on this side a little bit before, but in this mindset, I'm more like a GM. So I've been having some conversation with Ozzie Newsome. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have plenty more of those conversations. So it's a tad bit different, and I'm still trying to figure out that role. Some things I was asked to do prior to coming, so I'm still trying to iron those things out. Granted, I haven't been here for 2 months. Really, shit, I've been here for a week and a half, before the COVID cut us off.
Right.
So it's still really fresh, though I help with recruiting and stuff like that, talking to kids, talking to parents, telling them my mentality, my standard that I would like to see here at the university. But at the same time, I'm not the coaches. I'm not on the field coaching your kids. I'm talking to them, but I'm not the one scheming up stuff, telling them what to do on the field. You know what I'm saying? So I'm still figuring that role out, and trying to help right now where I can, and that's with the young men on our football team. Me personally, I'm in the mode of evaluating the coaches, the teachers who are teaching the students, these players who are leading these young men, because that's what it's about.
That's awesome. What else have you been up to, man, besides working with the Hurricanes? You always posting on Instagram about hanging out, listening to the jazz music, got the no football talk signs on there. What else you been doing?
Yeah, man, read the pen. People don't read the pen. But, man, I've been trying to bring joy to people with music and cigars. I live a cigar lifestyle. I'm working on my own cigar with Placentia right now, and some other brands I talked to, Perdomo being one, Tiamo cigar in San Andres with Miguel Tarrant, talking to him. So I'm working on my own cigar, but trying to bring good vibes to people during this hard time. A lot of people, including myself, family was affected with COVID. A lot of people having debt. We're losing a lot of leaders and ancestors of great old people, people who really did some positive things in life. We're losing a lot of those people, man. And quite frankly, I'm a bit of a historian and know a lot of history that's transpired in this world, in this country. And to be back fighting things that the great Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Gandhi, Mandela, the social injustices and things that's been going on for hundreds of years that affect everybody, all people, not just one people. Though, honestly, people of my shade have been treated differently. 3/5 of a man, to be exact. It hasn't been something that I've enjoyed watching, man. These last few months, especially dealing with young kids that I do. I have a foundation that I run for 20 years, and I deal with kids from all walks of life. And to have to look them in the face and tell them what the stuff you're going through, and explain things to my 12-year-old son and nephews, man, about these things is really hurtful. To be in a place where, you seem like you're not even wanted. You're home. It's crazy.
How do you judge the NFL and the NBA's response to stuff like this? Then, with that in mind.
Oh man, I think the NBA has done an amazing job. Obviously, getting back to entertaining the world in a hard time. Also stepping up to do more to help politically. I think there's more Boat can do, but that's just me on the outside looking in. I think the NFL is doing a great job with giving more access to guys to use their platform and using the platform that they're going to be doing stuff in season. It really started back with the NFL. So I think the NFL need to take some steps back and, do some apologizing and also, the thing that how they approach the Colin Kaepernick situation, because a lot of this still has to do with that. Could it have been approached differently on both sides? Probably. But now we to the point to where we really know. So I think they can do more and still should do, because they're the ones who are really at the top when you talk about this pyramid of life that we in. A lot of those guys are in those meetings and talking to those political figures. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is about right and wrong. This is not complicated. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, people just want a safe place to live in, a safe community to live in, and their kids to grow up in. That's all people really want in life. You know what I'm saying? Now, dealing with the mental issues and all that other stuff, that's a totally different ball game. But for the most part, man, just giving people a safe place to be in is what it's about.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Talking about the entertainment side of things and getting back to it, the NFL is actually set to begin next week. Are you somebody that watches the games on Sunday? Do you follow along with the Ravens season specifically, anything like that?
Man, when I wasn't working, I tend to be at home watching all the games, going through NFL Network and watching the Red Zone, flipping back and forth to different teams, depending on the matchup for the week, on which game I'm gonna be floating through, kind of like a fantasy football person. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, I still watch the game, man. I grew up playing this game since I was a kid. So that's something that's always a part of me. You know what I'm saying? So I'm always watching ball, man.
Nice. Well, it kind of goes on to the next question, because you're talking about your career. Your entire career, you're known for making plays with the ball in your hands. But the thing was, you ended up becoming a safety, where the only way to get the ball in your hands was you to steal it from the opposing team. What made you become a safety? If you were so lethal with the ball in your hands, why was the only way you had to do it was to steal it from the opposition?
I played multiple positions, played multiple sports, obviously. I became a player. My dad played for a team who I named my company after. It's called Challengers. And I really just wanted to play the game, man. This was an outlet for a kid growing up in Shrewsbury, Louisiana. When I got to high school, I played multiple positions. One of them was quarterback. I played a lot of quarterback. We didn't have the pieces to be a successful offense. We was running wing T. And at my size, I was bigger than our offensive lineman. So I spent a lot of time looking like Lamar, running with the ball. Running with the ball, and throwing some passes not as accurate as Lamar and throwing it too hard. But ultimately, I was like, you know what? I'd rather be on the defensive side of things, because I was more comfortable as a defender. And that came from playing basketball. I was a huge fan of Michael Jordan, probably the reason why I smoke cigars the way I do. But he was definitely responsible for helping me develop my skills and control as a defender, because, Michael Jordan was one of the best defenders in the league, him and Scottie Pippen, at the time they played. And basketball can help you develop your defensive skills. When I played in high school, I covered the best player on the team all the time. I was like the Brian Russell going in to play defense, in high school. And that helped me to develop into a great safety, on the football field.
Gotcha. Who was the toughest player you faced in your career? It could be physically the toughest, or the toughest maybe quarterback that you had to strategize and really compete with on the mental level. Do you have one?
Yeah. It was the guy in the mirror. Myself. I was my toughest opponent. Just from a training and getting ready for the game. You know, you're your toughest opponent. I tell it to my kids all the time in my foundation at my camp. Your toughest competition is yourself. I learned that with the University of Miami, being around great teammates. Reggie Wayne was my roommate. You know what I'm saying? I went against Reggie more than I went against anybody. So if I were to pick somebody outside of myself, it would be Reggie, because he and I went against each other more than anybody else. You know, when people were gone or walking off, I was covering him. You know, and he knew why. You know, and he'd come up there and tell me to come press him or come do something. You know, and he knew I was going to give, you know, my championship effort, and I knew I was getting that back from him. There's a reason why two roommates from the University of Miami do the things that they did, Super Bowl champions, and now he's up for the Hall of Fame. That's not by mistake.
Makes sense. I wanted to touch on your interview with Joe Buck a couple years ago. In the interview, you talked about the importance of the little things. You called out how teammates were leaving their tape on the floor. They weren't putting their towels away in the bin when they just had to walk past and set it on their way out, and how those small things make you better. What are the things in your life or in others people's lives that could improve from just doing the little things?
You know, for where we at, man, I'm going to try to relate this as best I could, you know, and it goes back to right and wrong from human beings.
Right.
If we see somebody doing the wrong thing, no matter what walk of life you're in, profession, in society, when you see somebody doing the wrong thing, correct them. You know, when it's law enforcement, politically, in a team aspect, organization, business, address it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because that could be the thing that changes somebody's life, affect them, and make them go the other way. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
I was addressing people to be clean at a time before COVID, and now we dealing with COVID. So how even more profound was that message?
Right.
You know, when we trying to win a championship, we trying to get people to clean up little shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, ultimately, like I said, it's just about living, you know, but we as human beings being distracted, you know, or going through things that we really shouldn't have to go through as people. Like, we know right from wrong, man.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that. You know, when you see right, you congratulate it and encourage it. You know, I wish it was that easy, but we live in a place where it's things that's above our head, man.
Yeah. You mentioned playing for that championship. Your final season with the Ravens resulted in you holding that Lombardi trophy. Thousands of Ravens fans, their favorite sports photo is you holding that trophy, staring at it with the confetti raining down. Can you describe what you were feeling in that moment?
Man, heaven must be like this. You know, it's a song that comes to mind. It's a feeling that comes to mind, because that's got to be the ultimate, like walking through the pearly gates. I'm gonna say something for you, like in the next couple of seconds. How do you go from being born in New Orleans to playing in the Superdome the day before, 2 days before Katrina hit, the last team to play in the Superdome, before Katrina, the first team to play in the Superdome in the Super Bowl when after Katrina with the Baltimore Ravens. That feeling, man, I don't really think people can really grasp being from a city and going back and playing there. I don't think I can really describe that much more than that, man. It was a blessing, man, like no other. Like, if you don't know nothing about me in this life, just know I'm good. You know, like, he was good, man. This man played in the Superdome in his backyard, man. I couldn't thank God enough, man. Like, I still can't, you know, and that's what that picture was like me looking like really this happened. Like, and there was so many more factors to it, man. But that was the ultimate feeling. It's hard to describe that, man, without even getting emotional about it, you know, because it's like I said, there's a lot of factors into that moment, man. Really.
Of course. You can see it on your face, man. Just you looking and reminiscing it. You can see just how much it meant to you, man.
Yeah, man.
All right. Last question.
Oh, perfect.
This interview's helped set up on behalf of Snickers and the return of the Snickers Hungriest Player program. My question for you is, how many times do you think a Baltimore Raven will be awarded the Snickers chain in 2020?
Oh, man, that's funny. Let's go with at least 3 times.
At least 3.
I was going to say 2, but I feel like they need 3. You know,
I think so.
16 games, I think 3. Yeah, I think Calais get it at least once.
Okay. Who do you got? Do you got Calais winning it all 3 times? Do you got Lamar winning it? Maybe Marquise Brown, Hollywood.
I think Lamar win it. No doubt. I think Eddie Jackson will win it up in Chicago. So I don't know, man. You got a couple guys. I think Brady still got that hunger down in Tampa Bay.
Okay.
You know, so I know Russell Wilson got it. You know, so we're going to see, man. There's a lot of competition out there for this thing because we living in some different times and everybody kind of started from the same place, you know.
Right.
So make sure the fans go follow Snicker at hashtag Snickers chain, you know what I'm saying? And we're going to see who make those big plays in 2021 to get this chain I got on right now.
That looks good too.
They're not going to look as good as you, to be fair, but
it looks. You see it, right? Like, they should put my name on this thing, man. You know what I'm talking about?
You would have won one, Ed. You would have won one. We know, no doubt about it.
Daddy kept it at my house. I've done it so many times, dude.
For sure. Well, thank you so much, Ed. Thank you to Snickers for having this set up for us. Really appreciate it. Appreciate your time, man. You take care.
You're welcome, man. You guys be blessed.
Ed, thanks, man.
Thanks, Carl.
All right, thanks a lot. Appreciate you guys. See you later. All right, God bless. Hell yeah.